Okay, we're going to look at this jazz piece now. So this was analyze the chords for key and function. The thing about jazz is that it's made up of little tiny idioms or ideas and chords in a key, and then it can shift to another key and another key. It will eventually always come back, okay? And in jazz, when we see our 5 chord, we almost always look for a 2 just in front of it. They go together. This is the pattern. In major, it would be 2 minor 7 going there. If it were in minor, it would be 2 half diminished 7 going to 5, like that, because the difference is in the quality of chords. Okay, and that's what we're doing here. We're going for a 2-5 hunt. Remember that 5s tell us the key we're in. Now there's one really weird one in here, and that's fine. I'm gonna show you how that works. I'll show you how you should have answered this with no extra information, and then I'll show you, how it actually works as well, just sort of to expand your knowledge. But what we do to begin with in red will be the answers that you would go on the test. No sharps or flats, right? Do you see that C would be my 1 chord and G7 would be my 5-7 chord right there? Okay, so there's my G7 right there. And that chord right there, because we're in jazz and we're coming up to a 5 chord, we shouldn't think, are we in the key of D minor, like D minor, or is this a 1 chord? It's not. This is my 2 that goes with my 5, right? I'm in the key of C right here, and this is my 2 and my 5. That felt good. Let's do it again. Another 2 and a 5. Just as an aside, and put the 7s on because they're there, you might be saying, but wait, Jewel, you have lied to us if this is the case. I thought 5 always goes to 1. It's true. When you're progressing, it does. But in jazz, what we do is we say like 2, 5. Ah, that felt really good. Stop, do over. So you can always interrupt what's happening and just go again, repeat. That's always allowed, okay? Now, we get to here, this could be a 3 chord in the key of C, truly. But whenever we see a minor 7 chord in these jazz charts, we should be suspicious and say, is this a 2 chord for a key? In this case, a different key, because D was the 2 chord here. And then we look around for its 5 chord, and there it is right there. If this is my 5, because it's a dominant 7, then this is my 2 chord. And what key am I in now? Well, if I'm in the key of D, then this is 5, and that's 2, right? So for here, we're in D, okay? And look, it does it again. In fact, that's a pattern, isn't it? The piece goes 2, 5, 2, 5. That was great. And so it says, let's do it again, but let's kick up a step. So we were in C, now we're temporarily in D. Our ears tell us that because these A7 chords have extra notes that the C key does not have, right? It's got a C sharp pointing to D, right? Okay, cool. Oh, but look, another one. It was A7 as a 5 chord. Now it's A minor 7. We suspect this is a 2, right? And we look for our dominant. There's the dominant chord right there. So this will be a 5-7, and this will be the 2 in what key? Well, if this is 5, then you're in the key of G, right? Hurrah. Oh, look, another one. If this was that, and then we flatted them both, then this would be a 2, right? And this would be a 5, not in G, but G flat. We're going to come back to this later, but this is the answer that you would get, right? Okay. And then here's, I'm back and it's C. Looks like I'm home. Okay. So I guess we're in C and that's a 1. Okay. It's true. It is. It has to do with this. And, we'll talk about that a little bit later. But we're at the end of the phrase and we've come back to 1. Okay. Now we have E minor 7 flat 5. That's E half diminished. That looks like a 2, right? And A7 flat 9. Don't let the flat 9 worry you. In minor, sometimes if they go to the ninth, it's a flat 9. Okay. So if this is my 2 half diminished 7, and this is my 5/7, heck, I'll even put flat 9 on there. What key am I in? Well, remember, this tells you you're likely in a minor key, and A would be the 5 of D, just like it was here and here, but it's pointing to the minor key. We're in D minor, put a little d there. Why? Well, we're going to repeat back to the beginning and look what our first chord is, D minor. Now I know this isn't 1, but this is pointing to it like the direction, like it wants to go back. And when it gets there, it says, surprise, I'm not a 1, I'm really just the 2, because 2, 5, 2, 5. But you see how you can find each one of these pairs right here, right? Okay, so second ending, we come here and we're in C again, and that's 1, and that's 2, right? Okay, let's ignore this for now. Okay, there's 2 spots that I will explain these 2 later, but for the test, I would say just ignore that right now, okay? Or if you want, we could say, hey, that's 7 diminished 7, D sharp of E minor, right? Like that. And that would be like my 1, oops, my 1 minor 7 right there. Or you could have just ignored this and said it's a 3, right? Because I don't see a 5 chord coming up right after it, okay? But here I have another minor 7, and then it looks like a dominant. This is another 2, 5 pair, right? 2, 5, 7. Looks like I'm in the key of F, right? This means do that again, so we're just not going to do anything. And if I'm in the key of F, 2, 5, 1, large M7, because we have to distinguish between the dominant, so we put a large M for major. And then it does it again, 2, 5. But then it interrupts and says, just kidding. By the way, we're in a different key because we're in the bridge, and bridge will be in a different key and then bring us home eventually. This is a 2, 5 here. It's the same 2, 5 as up here, and that's G. This is my 2. This is my 5. Okay, going over the page, repeating it again. Okay, that's fine. This is another 2, 5 right here, right? So this is 2, this is 5, and it's A, so this is a D, right? And that takes us back to the key of C, 2, 5, right? And then we're out of the bridge, and this is the same as verse 1 and 2, because it's the same exactly as the front. Okay, so we don't need to fill that out. All right. On the final, I'll probably do a little bit of hedging my bets and exclude chords like this, in the sense they don't bother doing those. And if you're done and you're really done out, then you can just turn off right now and say I'm good. But let me just try and explain what's going on here. If we wanted to get back to C, okay, this is, by the way, deep jazz theory and second year chromatic theory. So I'm going to go into pencil here so that you don't get confused. But I just want to show you something real quick. If we were coming back to C like we are at the end of the phrase, then we would do so with a G7 chord. Yes, because that's 5 of C, right? All right. So why D flat 7? It goes D7, down a half step, D flat 7, and there. Well, let me try and show you why this chord is a good substitute for that chord right there. If I were building a G7, I would go G, B, D, F. And these 2 notes right here are the notes that pull me towards the C. Here's my B, and here's my F, and they go, right? So those are my active ingredients. It's like different toothpaste has a similar active ingredient to push us to there. I said toothpaste, and probably If you don't speak English as your first language, you're going like, why is he talking about toothpaste? It just means the active ingredient is doing the same job. Like 2 different brands of toothpaste have fluoride in them to protect your teeth. Okay, let's spell this chord right here. It would be D flat, F, A flat, and C flat. And these notes right here are also my active ingredients that pull me towards my next chord, right? Same position. Notice that they are the same note, F and F, B and C flat, right? So we can substitute this D flat 7 for the G7. It sounds exotic and interesting because it's completely in the wrong place. It's not a 5 chord, it's like a flat 2 chord. But the active notes inside of them that want to pull to there are the same. And that's why we can do that in jazz and in some classical music as well. But they do it in jazz all the time. They're fiends for it. And since we have a 5 chord here, right, that's substituting for this, we can throw its 2 in front as well. And that's what's going on. Now, there are funky names for these called tritone substitutes, and I don't want to talk about why. That's a later conversation. If you must know, let's deal with that privately outside. By the way, if you think about this for a minute, it's just going to blow your mind here, just hopefully a little bit. If I have a D flat 7 chord, right, and I want to go to D flat, then I would use an A flat 7 chord to get there, right? It'd be the 5 of D flat, okay? And we can do the same thing here. A flat 7, see if I can draw this someplace where it's not going to make too much of a mess. I'll just put it right here. A flat, C, E flat, G flat, okay? These 2 notes right here are the active notes that push me towards the D flat, okay? If I spell D, D, F sharp, A, and C sharp, or not C sharp, sorry, C, because it's dominant. Notice that these 2 active notes, C and F sharp, is the same thing as G flat, are the same. So this is the substitute for the 5 of this, which would pull us there. So it's kind of cool in jazz. You'll see these things where you get dominant chord after dominant chord that are not going down by fifths, but just going down by half steps, because the active ingredients in those chords are the same, the active notes to push you to the next chords, as the 5 of something or the 5 of the next thing, okay? All right. I'm not going to deal with this. Just understand that it's a 7 for this right there, okay? All right. Look for and suspect whenever you find a minor 7 chord that it's probably got a dominant coming up. And the dominant tells you what key you're in, and you probably have a 2-5. And that's really what we're getting out of this. We want you to start being suspicious of that and seeing them and saying, oh, this is 2-5 in this key. That's 2-5 in that key. That's 2-5 in that key, and so on. Okay. There you go. Hope that was helpful. Hope that you're getting well prepared for your final exam.